Hi, good morning, everybody. I got some stuff here I want to share with y'all real quick, and then I'm sure everybody's busy with holiday season. It's New Year's Eve. Christmas is just come and gone, just like that, it seems like. So I'll try to be short here, and I've got a verse that comes from John, and in this verse, he talks about, it's Jesus speaking, and he's talking about troubles that, we're going to go through troubles, and he's talking to the disciples. And he's telling them, there's going to be things that's going to go on that are just going to be troublesome. It's going to be bad. It's going to suck. And he's telling them these things, but he tells them, he gives them hope by letting them know that he's going to be there with them. No matter what, he'll still be there. And it sounded kind of crazy to him, I'm sure. But, this really spoke to me, and I actually sought out this verse specifically because, just like with anything else, I'm going to be honest with you about some things. I have had some troubles in my life here recently, some issues that have been really hard for me to shake. I've really had some hard times, in my opinion, for some things that have messed with me in my mind, and I've had to reassess some things, and I've had to pray a lot about getting over these burdens and overcoming these things, and it's just been really difficult, if I'm being honest, here recently. And I know what you're thinking. Oh man, here's a guy with a fancy haircut that his wife makes him get, and he's wearing bibs. He's probably got all his stuff together. I really don't. But I've been praying a lot to overcome this certain situation that's been affecting me and my life. And I've prayed and prayed and prayed, and I've realized, and now it's still going to be hard, but I've realized that all of it is pointless. I'm still not comfortable with certain things. I still don't like the situation, but I find comfort in knowing that ultimately none of it matters, that God is in control, and that Jesus has overcome the world, and that's the most important thing for us. And so this verse is, here on earth you'll have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I have overcome the world. And that's Jesus speaking to the disciples and telling them these things. And right after that, ironically, the very next thing Jesus says is he prays, and he says, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son so he can give glory back to you. He's talking about being crucified. The dude's fixing to go through some serious troubles of his own. But he knows and he trusts God, just like we trust him. And so he just went from telling the disciples, I have overcome the world. There's going to be many trials and sorrows, but take heart, because I've overcome the world. And in his very next breath, he's talking about him getting crucified. So he knows what we're going through. He knows troubles and burdens come and go, and he knows what that's like. Obviously, more troubles than most of us will ever have. What he was going through was far, far more crazy than what I have just mentioned, And so we've seen time and time again of things in the Old Testament of people overcoming, and good things coming from their persistence and staying true to God. And if you haven't gone through Exodus, read Exodus, and it'll be your first step at seeing that if we maintain our faith and keep going the way we're supposed to go, we'll overcome these things. I mean, right out the box, chapter 1 in Exodus, it talks about the new Egyptian king didn't like that there were so many Jewish people, so he was trying to calm them down, their race, because he thought they were going to overpower them. So they were their slaves, the Egyptian slaves, and they had them just loaded down with work. Well, then they decided they were going to quit giving them the materials they needed to make the brick, and they forced them to go get the brick materials themselves and still produce the same amount or more than what they were doing when they were being supplied the materials needed. And so it would appear that these guys ain't going to last too long. But what had happened was God used that and stretched them all and strengthened them, and they kept multiplying and kept providing for each other, and it kept bigger and bigger. And God's promises were true to Abraham, and they just multiplied. And so what we see from that is that there was a burden that they went through. And so a lot of times when we allow God to stretch us with our burdens and our troubles, if we allow God to stretch us and mold us to the shape that He's molding us to, we'll overcome it. We'll be there. We'll get through it. It may take some time, and it's not always going to be easy, but we can get through it. And so I would like to encourage you to keep your eyes on God, keep your eyes on Jesus, and trust His promises. And no, take heart, because He's overcome the world. All this other stuff isn't going to matter. Sooner or later, it's all going to be over with anyway, and it's not going to matter. So don't lose hope in your situations, in your time, in your troubles. Don't lose hope. Stay at it. Keep praying. Talk to God about it. He knows what's going on. He won't give up on you, I promise. I hope everybody has a good week. Be safe tonight, and I'll talk to y'all next week.